When thinking of important Christian figures, people may think of the Apostle Paul, Martin Luther, the current Pope, or even the man himself, Jesus Christ. But most people often overlook Constantine. The purpose of this video is to explain why Constantine is one of the most influential Christian figures of all time. After the death of Jesus, Christianity spread slowly, primarily through the preachings of Christians and some written material. Romans were generally tolerant to other religions until they viewed them as a threat to the stability of their empire. So, initially, Romans didn't really care too much about the Christians and just saw them as another part of Judaism. As Christianity spread throughout the empire and became more popular, this mindset shifted. They started to view Christianity as dangerous to the order of the Roman Empire. They justified this in few ways. First, they thought that Christians were very exclusive since they did not recognize other gods and didn't partake in the festivals that honored them. Romans thought that honoring the state gods was an important aspect of society, and since Christians refused to worship them, they viewed it as an act of treason. Therefore, Romans began persecuting Jews in the 1st and 2nd centuries. This persecution really began after the Great Fire of Rome, which destroyed most of Rome, and Nero blamed the fire on Christians. Persecution continued in the early 4th century with edicts imposed by Diocletian. The edicts included burning of all Christian scriptures, the destruction of Christian churches, the imprisonment of Christians, and then, of course, their execution. While these prosecutions worked in the short term, they ultimately failed in their goal of eliminating Christianity. By the time of Constantine in the 4th century, Christianity had grown too strong and too large to be taken down by these persecutions. Before Constantine, Diocletian was the emperor, and he had been appointed when Rome was in a bad state. Long story short, Diocletian implemented many reforms that were beneficial to the Roman Empire. Since the empire was extremely large, he appointed people to help him run it. To run the western half of the empire, he appointed Maximian to the rank of Augustus. He also appointed Galerius under him, and Constantius, spoiler alert, Constantine's father, under Maximian as Caesars, or junior emperors. So, now we're entering the Game of Thrones part of the video, so gets a bit confusing, but I made some charts, so hopefully it's a bit easier. So the exact year of Constantine's birth is unknown, but he was born to a woman named Helena on February 27th in a year between 271 and 277. Since his father was the Caesar under Maximian, it was assumed that either he or Maximian's son, Maxentius, would become the next Caesar. Surprisingly, none of that happened, and Diocletian instead appointed two officers, Severus and Maximinus Daia. This obviously caused tension, and the whole system fell apart when Constantine and his father were together in battle when his father was killed. After that, the troops declared their loyalty to Constantine as their new Augustus, ignoring Severus altogether. Galerius disagreed with this and reached a compromise with Constantine by making Severus the Augustus and Constantine the Caesar. The situation got more confusing when the Senate in Rome declared Maxentius the son of the former Augustus Maximian. The new Augustus, Severus, was then defeated. To try to solve the problem, Diocletian attended a conference where he was asked to become emperor again, but instead declined because he was enjoying the retired life. An agreement was made at the conference that stated Maxentius was a usurper, and since Severus was dead, a new Augustus by the name of Licinius was appointed. This obviously upset the two Caesars, Constantine and Maximinus Daia, so they just claimed the rank Augustus as well. The system was completely messed up, since now there were 4 Augustus: Galerius, Licinius, Maximinus Daia, and Constantine. After Constantine became an Augustus, he ended all persecution of Christians in his territory. It is important to note that Constantine wasn't Christian at the time, and this only happened a couple years later in 312 at the Battle of Milvian Bridge. It was at this battle where Constantine ended up defeating the usurper Maxentius and the Senate in Rome then declared him to be the senior Augustus of the Roman Empire in the year 312. There are two accounts of this event. The first report is from Eusebius and states that when Constantine and his army were marching towards Rome, a cross of light and the words, "By this sign you will be victor," appeared in the sky. The second report is from Lactantius, which claims that the night before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, Constantine had a dream to place the sign of Christ on the shields of his soldiers. This report is more believable than the first, because if the phenomenon was seen by Constantine and his entire army, why was the event not more well known? A cool theory that some historians believe is that if they did in fact see this phenomenon, it perhaps could have been a solar halo. I mean, you see it does look like a cross in the sky. In the end, it doesn't matter what version of the phenomenon you believe. What is for certain is that Constantine did experience something, and since he won the battle, he fully believed in the power of the Christian God. After the event at Milvian Bridge, we see a large shift from the mindsets of previous emperors. Constantine favored Christianity, subsidized the church from public funds, exempted the clergy from public obligations, believed worshiping God was beneficial for the empire, and he believed he was God's servant. In 313, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which allowed Christianity to exist freely in the Roman Empire. More specifically, it stated that all persecution of Christians must stop, and that all property that was taken must be returned. Most importantly, it stated that Christians could now openly practice Christianity without facing any consequences. As Christianity became more popular, different interpretations of important doctrines emerged, which often contradicted each other. Specifically, the question of the nature of Jesus, whether he was human or divine, and the relationship between the Son and the Father were important topics of debate during this time. To solve these problems of contradiction, Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea in 325, which brought together hundreds of important Christian figures to state the Church's official belief on these matters. The result of the council was the Nicene Creed, which stated that Jesus and God were of the same substance, and anyone who went against this was actually declared a heretic. The Council of Nicaea established the precedent for dealing with different theological perspectives. Instead of physically fighting amongst each other, they created a place where people could state their beliefs and debate them theologically. This really helped unite Christians under one belief system. Constantine also stopped the persecution of Christians, returned all property back to them, and made it so that people could openly practice Christianity anywhere in the empire. The number of Christians in the Roman Empire increased greatly, and Constantine helped fund the constructions of many churches throughout the empire. He also funded many Christian charities and the production of Christian scriptures to spread the word. Overall, he established the environment needed for Christianity to thrive in the Roman Empire. This is even more evident because a few decades after Constantine, the Emperor Theodosius made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. These are my references, and thanks for listening.